Here we go. We're underway once again. Bunch of, I don't know whether you refer to us as a bunch, would you? But anyway, a heap, a bunch, a few reconveyed state nationals ready to have another little chat about all sorts of stuff. Sarah sends us a run sheet every weekend. She sends us an email, and she's got a template for the email, not for the show. It's just a few notes just to get us rolling, but she's got a template for the email. And it starts off, "Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I'm late with this again." And then you're muted. I want to hear what you got to say.
So thanks for that, Wayne.
That's all right. That's all right.
In my defense, part of the reason I was late was because I was trying to summarize the anadocs. Do you know how many she's written this last week?
Well, I don't know the number, but there's a heap there. So it will be a big job, I feel, but I'm sure you will have handled it really well. I can
Well,
hardly wait. I can
let's
hardly wait.
see.
And there's a bit of stuff there that we can get into a bit as well. So, um, so we got Kallen back on this week, and I I think we might just dive straight into what Callan's got to share with us. Callan spent a little bit of time at His Majesty's pleasure. Callan doesn't really look like a bad man to me, so I'd like to find out a bit more about that. So, do you want to launch into that, Callan, and we'll get into it a bit, and then we'll have a bit of a discussion, and we'll just see where it all leads, eh?
Yeah, no worries, mate. Well, yeah, I had bail conditions, and I was looking into commercial law because I wanted a friend of mine to be a business partner with me, and it didn't take me long to realise that it was a bit how you going, and I sort of looked down the other side, and I've come across a TASA link and watched a few meetings and decided, yeah, this is for me. So I reconveyed, done all my paperwork and stuff. But yeah, at the time had bail conditions. I was charged with, I think it was four times obstructing and injuring railways, which had a maximum penalty of 10 years, which was quite concerning. Four times stealing, and a couple of other minor charges. I think I had a possession charge, something like that. But basically, what had happened was, yeah, I'd been out and I was collecting some scrap metal out off the side of the road, which is something I probably shouldn't have been doing in broad daylight, sort of thing, on the side of the road. But there I was, and I was putting wire into the back of a trailer, and a guy drove up and started videotaping me, and I didn't really think much of it until he's like, "What are you doing with that?" And I was like, "Oh," so I sort of like covered my face, and he drove off, and sort of thought, "Whoa, what's going on there?" About 3 days later, detectives pulled me and my friend over and arrested us, and yeah, got put on bail conditions, and I knew I was signing those bail papers. I already had a bit of knowledge about the living status and all that sort of stuff, but I knew when I was signing that, well, I shouldn't have signed it, but I didn't know how to get around it, and yeah, I just spent a night in the watch house in Perth, which is not the greatest place. It's at the moment the West Australian prison system is, I think it's about 130% capacity. It's overloaded as there's three people in the cells. They're rolling out mattresses on the floor. Just not ideal. And everyone, whenever you go in the prison system in Western Australia, you go straight to Hakea, and that's sort of where they process you. And that is a dive. Like, it is third world conditions, cockroaches everywhere. You're struggling to get clothes. You're struggling to get soap and things like that. Like, it's really deplorable. And yeah, so I spent a night in a watch house in Perth. I got bail conditions. I tried to get my mate to come in business with me. Looked into commercial law a bit. Realised it was rubbish. Went down to Tassett Road, reconveyed, and I'd done all my paperwork and I'd done everything. So I'd done the notices in the paper, but I was still signing into the police station 3 times a week, and it got to the point where I was like, well, this is sort of like contracting with them. I don't want to consent or contract with them anymore. So once I sent out the notices, the war crime notices, and all the pre-sipping notices with the newspaper articles, I decided that. Well, actually, I actually accidentally went there. I was late one day, and I thought, well, this is a good time to pull the pin on it. So I stopped complying and signing in. And I think it was about 2 weeks later. Yeah, they come and grab me, and pretty much I grabbed my envelope, I grabbed a few other bits of paper, and they just pulled it out of my hand. They just said, "Oh, we don't recognise that." In handcuffs, I was taken to Mandurah police station and straight to court. And I didn't even I had no shirt on or anything like that. I got a shirt dropped off to me. Basically went before the magistrate, and I was telling them all like, "That's not me. That's a legal fiction. No, there's no capital letters in my name, anything like that." And I argued the case and stood up for myself pretty well for the situation I was in. And next thing I know, I'm on a bus and I'm getting taken to Hakea, where basically I think I was there for 2 or 3 weeks, and got moved to Casuarina prison, which was a lot better than Hakea, but it's still prison. It's still a dive of a place. But yeah, I ended up spending 9 months in Casuarina. One thing I can never forget is when I first got to Hakea, I wouldn't sign anything. They were trying to get me out of the truck, the transport truck. They moved the prisoners from the courthouse to prison, and they were trying to give me a little swab thing to put up my nose, one of those COVID tests, and there was no way in the world I wanted to put that in my nose. I wasn't sick at all, had no symptoms, and they wouldn't let me out of the back until I'd put that up my nose. And I argued my case. I said, "No, I'm not doing it. Not doing it. Don't comply. You do not have my consent. I'm not a person. Like you only have jurisdiction over a person. All this sort of stuff." And a big angry redhead guard with a big redhead beard, he was there, and he's on the other side, and he's going, "Look," he's basically telling me, I don't give a few swear words, like he's giving it to me. He's basically saying, "I don't care. You're going to do what I tell you. You're in prison now. Like, you're going to do what I tell you." And I still wouldn't comply. And just went back and forth for about 10 minutes. And they got the nurse to come out and a couple of other people to come out to try and sort of get to do what needed to happen. And he got to the point where he's threatening me. He's basically saying, "You're going to go down into the back, and I'm going to hose you down and not give you anything to sleep with, and give you hiding." So pretty much got to the point of where it was threats for safety and well-being. And he said, "So what's it going to be?" And I said, I'll take the hiding." And yeah, he didn't like that. But I called his bluff, and he sort of went off, and he went all frustrated. And then the nurse came back, and she was like an Irish nurse, a redhead as well. And she sort of convinced me to just put it on the edge of my nose and this, that, the other. So I picked a booger and I put a booger on it, and she wouldn't accept that. Anyway, this went on and on. And in the end, I got it and I rubbed it on the edge of my nose, gave it to him, and I was out of there. And then, yeah, basically the processing and all that sort of stuff. I wouldn't sign any paperwork. And yeah, next minute I'm in the prison system. Moved to Casuarina. Yeah, it was pretty difficult in the sense that I couldn't really use a lawyer. And the other thing that kept happening was they had trial dates set, and I think the first one was for 31st of July, or there was fair few trial dates that were set. And I never made a plea. The first time I went to court, I stood up and said, "Yeah, I'm here under special presentation. That's not me. That's a living. That I'm alive. That's a fiction." All that sort of stuff. Argued my case pretty well. But she got me on. She asked me if I reside at my address, not address, but where I was staying, and I said yes, and that's where I come unstuck the first time. But I'd actually filled out a slip as well to say I'm there as the counsel for Kallen, William Cook in capital letters. So I was there, lowercase letters, representing the uppercase letters. I gave it to the lady at the in the courtroom and stuff like that. And the first thing she said, she called my name out about 5 times, and I wouldn't budge. I was sitting there, wouldn't move. And my brother's there with me, and he's elbowing me, going, "Come on, come on, that's you, that's you." And I'm like, shh, it's not me, it's not me. And then I'd instructed the lady that I gave the paper to, the slip that had the council information on it, that I'd only get up to the representative for Kallen William Cook. So after about 5 times, she was staring at me, and I sort of stared back at her. And then she said, "Oh, the representative for Kallen William Cook." So I stood up and went up, and that's sort of the first thing the judge said to me. She must have missed it because she goes, "Are you Kallen William Cook?" I said, "No, Your Honour. I'm known by Kallen. I'm known as Kallen." I said, that's a legal fiction, Your Honour. I said, "You're trying to join me to a legal fiction," and so on. It went on like that. But first thing she said, she goes, "Oh, didn't you just stand up to Kallen William Cook?" I said, "No, Your Honour. I stood up to the representative for Kallen William Cook." So she went back, got a bit of paper, looked at it, and yeah, that went on. She made me sit at the back of the courtroom till like right at the end of the day, and it got up again. And this went on again. But yeah, she got me on the. She said, "Do you reside at yeah?" And I stuffed up there because I shouldn't reside anywhere. Because like we went through last week, the res is a thing. So I basically admitted to being a thing, and that was where it all started. Went downhill, had bail conditions and whatnot. But yeah, ended up spending 9 months in prison. Used the phone for a little while, but yeah, signed everything by copyright, things like that. But I wouldn't actually sign or anything like that. There was one incident there where they what happened? One of my cellmates had some the thing that goes around in prison is stuff called Suboxone. Now I've never seen it before in my life, and I got called into the screws office. They just searched our cell and got called in, and they showed me this. It's like orange strip, and he goes, "Do you know what this is?" And I was like, "No idea." He goes, "Well, it was found in your cell." And I was like, "Yeah, well, it's not mine." And he's like, it's like, "What is that?" I said, "Look," I said, "Is it LSD?" Because it looked almost like LSD in the paper strip form. And he goes, "Well, you tell me." And I was like, "Well, I don't know." And anyway, they let me go. I left the thing, and I seen my cellmate. Well, it was I had 2 cellmates because there was 3 of us in a cell, and he was actually a good guy. And I told him what happened, and he goes, "Oh, no worries." Anyway, they called back in the office. He said he was going to sort it out. Called me back in the office, and he came up knocking on the window and started pointing like this, and then they knew like it was his. But I was very lucky in the sense that he was honest about it, because there's lots of blokes in there that wouldn't have been. So he put his hand up, and he ended up getting moved to one of the worst units there, which was a shame because he was actually a good guy. But then I sort of learnt what everyone was on in there, and yeah, it sort of opened my eyes up a bit to the whole world, and like it's pretty bad in there. Like there's a lot of people that are just on it all the time. Yeah, there's a lot of drug use in there, and there's a lot of hepatitis and things like that, because there's a lot of people sharing needles in there. They're smuggling in needles and whatnot, and they're all sharing it. And yeah, I was just like, wow, this is pretty bad, like it's not a real good place. And a lot of them that, like on a man-to-man level, they're actually not bad people, and I could get along with them, have conversations with them and stuff like that. But yeah, the reality of it is that they're using heavily and things like that. Yeah, it sort of opened my eyes up to a new world, what's going on in there. And I feel like these people, they get caught in it and they just sort of give up, they lose hope, they get caught up in it, and they just turn on that path, which is, it's pretty heart-wrenching to witness. And then you see the young people coming in, and it's like they get taken under the wing, and it's almost like they feel like they're doing them a favor. But yeah, it's like, wow, this is pretty bad, So yeah, I sort of thought that I would have got out a lot quicker, but yeah, it sort of just dragged on and on and on. They kept moving the trial date back. Every time I'd go to court, it would be by video link. I wouldn't accept a lawyer, because if I was represented, I would be giving up my living man status and pretty much null and voided it. So this went on and on and on. And yeah, every time I went to the video link to the court, it was over in 3 minutes because I'd stand up and I'd say, no, Your Honour, I'm not that. It's not my name. I don't understand. No, I don't understand. Things like along these sorts of lines. And then Neville I ended up getting on the phone. I didn't use the phone for 5 months because I was like, no, I don't want to use their paperwork. I don't want to use anything that they've got. I was wondering if it was a benefit. So it's actually a privilege that they call it a privilege in there. So I was like, well, I don't really want their privileges. So I didn't use the phone for 5 months. I stopped doing spends in there. So I was doing it basically as hard as you could, just on principles and trying to get around their systems, which was challenging, but I was up for the challenge in a sense. Like I enjoy a challenge, so to speak. And yeah, but after about 5 months without the phone, I decided to use the phone. And luckily for me, I had Ray and Albert, who were brilliant. They were coming to see me as much as they could. So they were coming every second week or as much as they could, which was awesome because that was basically my only contact with the outside world. And yeah, can't thank them enough for everything they've done. I can't thank all the people throughout TASA for everything they've done, to be honest. And all the letters and things like that. Like there was a lot of mail coming in and stuff like that, and it really uplifted my spirits at times when I could have been feeling a bit down and things like that. But yeah, it was challenging in a sense that I had no contact with the outside world. I had a 4-year-old daughter when I got put in, and me and her, like we've got the best bond ever. And yeah, so it was a bit of a challenge. And then after a while, I ended up using the phone and hold of Neville. Someone in a group got me Neville's number. So I rang Neville and talked to him, and I had upcoming appearance for court or whatever they call it, visitation through video link. But yeah, and he's like, right, get a pen and paper, and he got there and he started trying to help me as well. And he was brilliant in the sense of like put me on the right direction. And he said, right, you don't have a surname anymore. And I was like, okay, no worries. He goes, that's property of the Crown. It's like, okay, yep, agreed. So I stopped using the surname. So when I'd go to court, gave me things to say. So the opening line would be, Your Honour, I'm known by the Christian name only. I bear no altered or divided name. I do not stand under any construct, device or assumption that assigned a surname or commercial designation to me. That's how it sort of started, and it went on, and it was really well put together. So he made sure I memorised it and I was prepared. So yeah, basically went to the video link and saying these words, and sure enough, they shut down again, and I got made wait again. And I honestly thought that Ray and Anita and a lot of the crew were at court that day, but it turned out they didn't bring me back in until they'd kicked everyone out of court. So I finally was allowed to speak. He said, right, I'll give you 2 minutes. And I was like, you beauty, that's all I need. I can get this out in a minute. So I read the speech out that I'd put together, which pretty much covered everything. And yeah, sort of thought, oh, yeah, something's going to happen here. It was a bit of a different feel about it. I was actually allowed to speak for once. But no, I just got put back again for another video link. I was waiting for trial. It was coming up on, I think it was May the 6th. I was waiting a trial, which ended up being 10 months or 11 months, I think it would have been in total. And Ray and Albert were going to extensive lengths to figure out ways of getting me out. And we always thought we were going to figure something out. And then in the end, they're like, look, you're just going to have to bite a bullet sort of thing. And I was like, I didn't really want to accept it. Had a bit invested in it by then, but sort of decided, yeah, okay. I was reluctant. Yeah, okay, I might have to bite the bullet here. But yeah, didn't really want to. Then I got a letter, and all their mail and stuff, I'd just return back and fill it out like we do. And even when I was getting letters from child support. And I was like, why am I getting letters from child support? All of my kids were at my house. Anyway, I returned service then. But yeah, I got a letter given to me from the Screws. They just handed it to me directly, and it was appearance in court to rejoin me to my co-accused. Now, my co-accused was he's an interesting story as well. He got put inside for breach of bail. In there, he had a cut in his foot. He ended up getting septicemia, was in a coma and died 4 times. Now, in the end of it all, when I went to court for that thing where they're trying to join me to my co-accused, I was like, oh no, because they can go for another 7 months now. And I was like, oh no, that's not decided right. And
I'll just butt in there for a sec, mate.
yeah,
A lot of information there, and we probably, as a group, should pull some of that apart.
100%.
There'll be well, hopefully there will be people that will listen to this, and some will not have a clue of some of the stuff you've been talking about. I find it really interesting that a living man can stand in front of a judge, obviously alive, and they're still trying to trick you into contracting to being dead. I mean, it's ludicrous. It's when you understand what's going on, it's you just wonder how this could be happening. But that's what they were doing, eh? Like you told them where you reside, and they said, got ya, you're dead. Yeah. If you're alive, you wouldn't be residing anywhere. Yeah. Trickery in the extreme. Any of you other guys want to help pull that apart a bit so that it's more maybe understandable for newbies or people that don't quite have the knowledge that we've sought? So it appears that you've paid, and we'll go back and hear the rest of the story too, Kallen. But it appears you've paid a very big price for what you would have to consider a very small misdemeanor.
I think.
Yeah, well, it's. I mean, I did do something wrong, in the sense, and I ended up having conversations with the lawyer, and I was like, mate, I have 2 of these charges. I was at work, like one of the dates of the charges, and I was lucky because I went through my records on my phone and had flights there, and I was like, you be busy. This one I'm at work, and I was working at Barrow Island at the time. And another one that same day, I flew to Esso offshore, which was off Melbourne, and so I had a flight to Melbourne that day, and I was like, there's no way in the world I was there that day. So straight up, half of it was done and dusted. But yeah, it was like I got blamed for everything that happened there. What seemed like for the last 12 months, just because I had a video taken of me. It turns out, like in the end, after I'd pleaded guilty, I ended up pleading guilty because I went before the judge 3 times in one day about the getting joined to the co-accused. The first 2 times I stuck to my guns, I just couldn't do it, and then ended up getting hold of Ray. Ray got hold of this duty lawyer named James. He then got hold of me, and I was trying to just like be reasonable with him, but he's basically said, nah, you've got to this, you've got to that. And so I didn't do it. Anyway, it took 3 days before they got me to just go yes and admit to that name, because to me it was a breach of my spiritual beliefs big time, because there's no way, once you find out, there's no way in the world you want to say that that's you. And yeah, I couldn't even say, couldn't even let the judge call me you in the courtroom, because you under section 445 of the Tax Exemption Act is an entity. So yeah, I was every time he called me you or said you, I'd rebut it. Objection, Your Honour, I rebut being called you as an entity. I'm not an entity. Things like this. So it gets pretty tricky. And yeah, in the position I was in, it was every time it was almost like you're going into a boxing ring every time, and it would exhaust you, especially when you lost every time. It was like being a boxer and just getting beaten every time you went in the ring, so to speak. But yeah, he's can talk more. if you want.
I know Sarah's got something to say. Want to go ahead, Sarah?
Well, I think it's indicative. I mean, we had Susie on the call a couple of weeks ago, and her situation was handled quite differently, but then she was coming from a different perspective. But um, you know, I think it indicates because WA were really, really harsh through the lockdowns. We know that WA have got a history of basically tramping over people's rights, as they did. The cops there were just as bad in their own way as the Victorian ones were. And I think it's really interesting to hear what the inside of the prison was like. Because I think when you say that, like young people come in and they get taken under the wing and then they kind of they then grow accustomed to this lifestyle, if you like, of this is the way we've got to be now. And then it's really, really hard to change out of that when you come back out because society has been taught to look down on prisoners and or ex-prisoners. And I think one of the things that we've probably seen through COVID and certainly in TASA, we've had a number of people um, inside jails for nothing, like literally nothing. And they've all said the number of people in there that have done nothing wrong, like literally nothing wrong. There's been not even, if we define crime as like harm and loss, that's in the TASA world. You can only commit a crime if you hurt someone or you cause loss or damage to something or someone. But even in the statutory world, people are in there who've done nothing wrong. Like they've literally done nothing wrong. They've just said the wrong thing at the wrong time. And we now find out things like, or maybe I found this out not long ago, was that, like in children's court, it's nothing to do with the parent that the kids are safest with. It's the parent that can pay the most to get the kids, really, who can fight the most. They're the ones that the kids are deprived of because the courts want the money. It's a huge, big money-making scam. And the jails clearly are just part of that. And part of it is, and we'll talk about this a bit later, but as Anna said, the noise is getting noisier. And we've been told this, the noise is getting noisier because more and more people are waking up and going, what is this crap? This is just rubbish. What are these people doing? Like, they're not even, the politicians aren't even pretending to look after our best interests anymore. They're just doing what they want to do. And so I think certainly when we hear people like you and Susie, and, I know there's others out there, Nathan in Queensland, and other people that are coming out and saying, this is what's going on. And it's very hard to refute that because it's not like you're sitting here lying. You're saying, yeah, I did this. It wasn't the right thing to do. I was taking stuff off the side of the road. It's not like you're lying or anything like that. You're being really honest here. I just think as Wayne said, there's a lot to unpack in it.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that the lawyer, when you got a lawyer, he just said, no, just go along with it. And again, this points to the fact that we know the Bar Association, they're registered as a guild of actors. They're literally actors. And we now find out that Black's Law Dictionary was intended when it was first written as a satirical document. It was like, yeah, this is so stupid, we're going to make fun of it. And then the lawyers went, oh, that looks good. And they took it. And they've made this whole big law dictionary around it. And it's nuts. It's just nuts.
I'm sure Kallen's not laughing about that.
No, but I mean,
I got to laugh.
Shows how satirical and how farcical the world we live in has become. It's just, if you put this into a movie, people would go, surely that wouldn't happen. It's like Yes Minister back in the day. Remember? We all used to laugh and go, that wouldn't happen. If only we knew. It was a doco. I yield.
Alan, you've got your hand up there.
Yeah, mate. Kallen, Alan here, mate. Just a bit of a question, I suppose. I went with someone for bail conditions, and they didn't actually get them to sign in. It says sign in for bail conditions, but they just rocked up and they said, oh, yep, you're here. Good on you. See you later. Go. I'm just wondering, mate, did they actually get you to sign or autograph when you did your bail conditions? And if so, could you have just done v.c. every time and not pull out altogether? I yield.
Yeah, so the one that they had was the first one when I was in a watch house for 24 hours in a watch house. I'd done a signature there, just a normal cursive writing signature. But when I was on bail conditions, I just had to go up to it's just got a mobile phone, like an Apple iPhone on a holder in the Mandurah police station, and you walk in and you have to write your details in, and basically it takes a photo of your face and it goes green and off you can go. Sometimes it would go red and I'd just be like, well, that's good enough. I'm out of here. Another time I went in there to serve the paperwork to them, and ended up being a big row. So I went in there. I was going to catch up with Albert for lunch, and I said, "Oh, it'll just be 10 minutes, mate. I'll be there in a minute." Anyway, the lady at the counter, I'd just seen her face. She changed. It was almost like she turned into a witch. It was actually pretty crazy. Her face, everything just changed. She went like from normal to like just a little bit off actually. But she went out the back to get one of the police officers, and I was like, okay, this isn't going to be as easy as I thought. So I basically got my phone out and I had it on the bench and I pushed record. And when he came out, I said to him, look, mate, I'm recording this conversation. The phone's there, it's recording right now. So I let him know. And he's going, yeah, that's fine. And yeah, basically tried to go through the paperwork with him and just give it to him. I was trying to be nice and friendly about it. And that ended up going on for 14 minutes. So it ended up being a 14-minute recording and back and forth. And in the end, he's asked me to leave, sort of thing. And he sounds nice and calm in the recording, but his body language and his mannerisms will tell me a different story. He wasn't far off coming out and grabbing me for sure. And he was sort of behind the counter, and I think there was a glass screen there, sort of thing. But yeah, so I'd given him fair notice. And at that time, I was telling him, like look, I did not want to do this phone thing. I said, because in my fee schedule, it's $5 million for an eye scan. I said, I'm considering that an eye scan because I activate it by blinking. So it's scanning my eyes. And yeah, it was an interesting conversation, but he's basically like, all right, you've got to sign on. And I was like, no, I don't. You're going to deny I'm here. And I just walked out in the end. He basically asked me to get out. But then as I'm leaving, he's gone, oh, you've got to sign on. And I didn't. I walked out. Nothing happened out of it because I was there. But yeah, it was the one signature I'd done in the whole ordeal, sort of got me unstuck. And that was early in the piece. I didn't actually know what to do at that time, but I've been advised that VC doesn't do anything either, and not to put any sort of mark or signature on any of their paperwork, which gets a bit tricky in reality of things when the whole world evolves around bits of paper, and you've got to get access to this, and there's certain things you just can't do without having to do their paperwork. So yeah, the advice from Neville was don't ever mark any of their paperwork ever again. And that was part of the speech I said to the judge was, I cannot sign or mark any documents written in uppercase writing. Such writing does not follow the English rules of grammar, and I cannot, in good conscience before God, mark anything that I do not fully understand. Yeah, so that was sort of part of the thing as well, is that I couldn't mark any of their paperwork because they don't care. Like, you put a line on there and they'll take it as a signature. They do not care when it comes to the crunch of it. But by the end of it, I think they gave up on me by the end because I left prison, and I always was waiting for the one where I had to leave, and I thought it was going to be a pretty big standoff here. And I thought this is going to be a test of my willpower, this one, because I've done 9 months. I want to get out. I'm dying to get out. And yeah, I was thinking, well, yeah, I'm going to have to stay strong. And I said, this could go on for another month or 6 weeks, and I'm thinking, oh, Jesus, I wasn't looking forward to it. But when I got there, they didn't actually make me sign it when I left. And the interesting thing was, on the paper, they had a photo of me. He's known by the Justice Department, and I was down as a client. And I found that very interesting. They had me down as a client, but I didn't sign it. But it didn't matter. They just let me through anyway. And so, yeah, it was basically 2 hours after I'd so the third time I went to court that day. When I went back to the cells, there was a couple of Aboriginal guys there, and they asked me what happened. And I told them what happened and what I'd said and stuff. And one of them was real concerned. He goes, oh, bro, they'll put you in the medical. You'll go to medical and you won't come out. And I was like, oh, that sort of hit me hard. And I was like, what? That's it. I've had enough. I'm gonna do it and get out. And next time I went there, the lawyer basically took over. I didn't really get to say much. And 2 hours later, I was released, which was very interesting. But yeah, they basically made me plead guilty of stuff. I was at work for two of them. I had proof of that, but they were basically telling me if you want to wait for trial, then that's fine. Otherwise, you plead guilty and we'll let you out. It's like so I basically had to lie and plead guilty to things I wasn't even there for to get out, which is so counterintuitive that you wouldn't believe it's real. Like she's saying, you wouldn't believe it's real unless it happened to you. Yeah, so a lot of lessons learned in amongst it all. And yeah, I believe I found out a bit later that don't reconvey until you've got everything. The waters are calm, so to speak, before you reconvey. So that was probably a big mistake I made. And yeah, but I had a crack at it anyway. I had a good crack, but it didn't pay off. But lessons learned. I'm still here. I'm still fine. I was a bit tattered. Like last month in there, did start getting on my mental health and my nerves. I suppose I was starting to feel it, and I'm a pretty strong sort of lad. I can handle a bit. So when I started to feel it, and I knew like, oh, these effects aren't really going to be too good on you. And then when the Aboriginal guy said to me, "Hey, bro, they'll put you in the medical. You won't come out." That was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back. And yeah, 2 hours later, I was out. Albert come pick me up, and got to see my daughter and my family, and yeah, been out ever since. Been back in the garden and making music. So yeah.
So yeah, I don't know how you lasted, mate, by the sound of it. So basically, they made an example of you because you pushed back with your beliefs, by the sound of it. Would that be true?
No, I wouldn't say that exactly. It's just the system's overflooded, and that's just the remand system. So if you don't get bail, you get jail. So if you breach bail, you're in jail until trial, unless you plead guilty. So a big part of what they do is, and you see it happen all the time, is they will get people in there on remand. They haven't got enough evidence to get them properly, so they just keep them in there, dragging out, and then after 2 or 3 years, these blokes give in and they plead guilty to stuff they haven't even done because they've served more time than what the crime's worth, which was well past the case with me. So even though I'd done way more time than the crime warranted, it didn't matter because I was waiting for trial. So it wasn't so much that they were picking on me, anything like that. It's just that's how slow their system is. And 18 months is pretty general. 12 months to 18 months is a general wait on remand for someone in the magistrates. And then I believe as you get higher, I think district court's like 3 years. So if they've got, and they did try and indict me to district at the start. So yeah, I could have been sitting there for 3 years to wait for a trial, which isn't ideal, and there's a lot of it going on. One of the big things I noticed in there's lots of blokes in there on what they call it, domestic violence things. So they've tightened up on domestic violence. There's a shooting in West Australia where a guy shot his wife. He'd recently broken up with her. He murdered her, and then they've tightened up on these domestic violence laws. Now, the amount of guys that were in there on domestic violence saying that they'd done nothing wrong, was phenomenal. And I believe about 65% of them. Some of them, you sort of think, oh, no, I don't believe you. But a lot of them would be doing 4 months, and then they'd let them go, or they'd get a lawyer and they'd get to go before the judge or whatever. And yeah, a lot of them waited out, and yeah, they basically dropped the charges. So many times they dropped the charges, and these blokes have been doing like 4 or 5 months. And the thing I heard was that the women were getting $2,500 every time. And I've got no qualms with women getting compensated for domestic violence. Like it's a big issue, and it's a problem definitely. But I think what's happening is it's getting sort of used in a way that it's like a bit of quick revenge and a bit of a quick pay as well. So it's a funny thing, that one. There's a lot of blokes in there for that, which was one thing I couldn't sort of not see.
There it is on your record. Hey,
Yeah, so I ended up getting 60 months jail. So I pleaded guilty to, I think it was 4 times 12 months and 4 times 6 months, I believe. And it was all concurrent sentences. Yes, so 4 times 9 months and 4 times 6 months, all concurrent sentences. So you end up adding up to 60 months jail, which is 5 years, at 9,000 a day out of the SKB account. It was huge. What they would have got out of that was massive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are so correct. You are so correct, and therein lies the problem and the motivation.
And that's, and even with that, they're still putting people's taxes and everything else up because they are so broke. They're so broke that even with all of this overcrowding jails, all of the money that they're getting off these people who've been wrongly locked up, everything else, they're still having to put taxes up. They're still increasing the cost of everything because this government has run the country into the ground. And the thing is, the credit's all sitting there anyway. They're just, it's all made up stuff. The credit's there. If they actually allowed the people to live using the money out of our Sedicate Trust, the debt that they supposedly have incurred would be dropping. So it's infuriating. It's just infuriating. At the start of the conversation, Kallen, you said someone said, "Are you going to tell us about the music?"
Oh yeah, well, I'm just about to put a couple of albums together. Just been working on music for. I've been making music for about 10 years, but I sort of knuckled down for the last 3 weeks, and yeah, started to get a bit serious about it. Yeah, it's a bit it's sort of like semi-comedy. It's just a bit vulgar, a bit crude. Yeah, a lot of I don't know, unsavory sort of things in amongst it, but it's entertaining nonetheless. And I don't know, it's just the music that I make, I suppose. But yeah, been making a bit of music, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I've been getting 4,000 listens a day, just last few days, which is interesting.
So where can we go to listen to that?
I don't know if you just want to listen to it. It's it's a bit party animal, sex, drugs, and rock and roll sort of themes. It's pretty filthy. But yeah, it's on SoundCloud under DJ Chooky Lightning Frog. But you've been pre-warned. It's pretty vulgar.
If you send me a link, Kallen, if you email me a link, I'll forward it to Wayne, and then he can put it in the chat under the thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely R-rated. It's yeah, it's
okay.
It's right on. Yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
right on. Yeah.
Just out of interest, because I know when we were talking to Susie a couple of weeks ago, she, obviously she's been in Dame Phyllis Frost over here, and she said that there were things that they used on the prisoners. So, various medications, and she said they ran frequency through the cells, and there was a whole lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Was that was happening with you guys as well?
So I was lucky enough to come across a good cellmate, and he was a fitness freak, which was great for me. He wasn't a druggie or anything like that. And yeah, we were looking around, and we were the only 2 guys that weren't going to get meds. And meds was on 2 times a day, and they'd call up, and blokes would be lined up, and yeah, you'd watch some of them. There'd be like 10 tablets in a handful, and you'd just be thinking, what are they taking? And then you'd watch them in the Arvo, especially. They'd have their tablets, and then they'd all pep up, and they'd be loud. Like, prison is the noisiest place on earth. I've never seen anything noisy. And they're all yelling, and yeah, it's just so noisy. I can't believe how noisy it is in there. But we couldn't help but notice that after the afternoon medication, how noisy it got. It was just it's like being in a zoo. It was crazy. Yeah, with all the birds squawking and stuff like that. Yeah. And yeah, that I don't know what they were on, but twice a day, that out of I think there was 16 cells in the block. There was 5 with 3 of them, and the rest with 2. So I think there was 37 prisoners just on my level, and then there's 4 levels to a unit. So what's that? 74, 148 prisoners in a unit, and yeah, they do sort of one level at a time. twice a day, but we were just shocked at the amount of medication that was getting consumed in there. Me and him were only two on that level that weren't getting medication, and we were the odd ones out, like 100%. Everyone's just lining up to get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Bloody hell. I wonder what it was. Wouldn't be anything any good.
No, it would be prescription specific, but yeah, a lot of them are on antidepressants, antipsychotic medications, things like that. And yeah, you could notice the behaviour difference. Like there was one guy, I made friends with him. He was actually a really good guy, and he was in there for domestic violence as well. And he was another one like me. He was on remand. He'd done but basically nothing. And he lost his house, lost his job. He had a job working for Tesla, doing as a panel beater for the cars, and he was on $200,000 a year. He had a house, lost all that, and he's in there and he's on the antipsychotics or something along those lines. And yeah, at one stage he's like, I'm going to get off these, and he stopped taking them. But then he actually did start going a bit psycho, which was interesting. But yeah, he's probably that angry, I think, from what's happening to him. That's sort of the end result of it. It's like you get pushed to a breaking point, and then they offer you a cheap solution or a remedy it's like, here, take this. This will help you. But yeah, even like there was blokes coming in that had other issues, and even to see a nurse. Like I had a bit of a lump on my shoulder, which was concerning. But to see, I think it took. I got to see the nurse 7 months. 7 months in, I got to see the nurse, and then she referred me to the doctor. I never actually got to the doctor, and yeah, I come out and I've got it sorted now. But yeah, it was like it's plugged up on all sides. That the lawyers are working like that much that they're actually losing the plot. They're that flat out trying to keep up with it all that they can't keep up, and actually a bit loopy. They can't keep track of everything. It's just too much for them. Yeah, so the whole thing is that plugged up that it's that noticeable. It's ridiculous.
What? What a system. And the other thing that you mentioned was I found that little item in your cell and they blamed you. But this whole idea, like I've watched lots of movies over my life, and actually my favourite one that I ever watched was The Shawshank Redemption, which was a jail movie. But it's when they find the drugs in prison, and they've been smuggled in, and I think, well, I don't know, this is a bit weird. Like they've got a jail here where they keep people in, but they're getting these drugs. They're just coming in, and we just find them randomly in the cells. We don't know. We got no idea how it got here, but So.
Oh yeah, it's money. Money is the root of all evil, they say. And you'd be surprised how much money there is to be made if, say you're a prison officer, or say you're a girlfriend of one of the prisoners, and you find a way to get this stuff in. There's a lot of money to be made, hands down. Like, yeah, I've heard some stories of people going to prison for 6 months and coming out with 180 grand and stuff like this, or $100,000, and yeah, they're getting people are sending their money through the like their phones to whatever, and then as soon as the money's in, they sort it out, and then yeah, there's business going on flat out in there. And I've heard of people getting caught for it as well, but it's like I've heard one story of people getting caught where the federal police got involved. The rest of it was all in prison stuff, and it's like a kangaroo court in there. It's another jurisdiction again, I believe, in the prison system, and yeah, it's like a kangaroo court where they bring in like a different sort of magistrate, like I think it's a military magistrate, and it wouldn't surprise me because we're wearing greens in there, and military generally use greens. So I sort of answered that question I had of myself. It's like, why do we wear green? And then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's obviously a military thing. Yeah, so in there I had I had to have a name tag, and I hated it because it was capital letters and it had a little picture. I flushed the first 4 or 5 of them down the toilet, but then it got to a point where it was detrimental to my safety. So I ended up conceding. I put VC in big letters on my name tag, and everyone could see it. You could see it bright as daylight. And I wore that all like with the VC. It's the only way I could wear it. Like spiritually, it was just the wrong thing to do. And yeah, on the door of the cell, all capital letters. The main styles were capital letters with your first name, your last name first, and just all capital letters in the right order. So that was the two styles they used in there.
Well, what a stand. So what was the total time you were in there, mate?
9 months, I believe. I think 9 months, 17 days, something like that.
Yeah, 9.5 months.
I could add it up. I think I did once. I think it was 9 months and 17 days, or 8 months and 17 days, something along those lines.
Way too long, anyway.
Yeah, and that's basically what they were saying. They're going like, look, you plead guilty to this, and you can get it out. If you don't plead guilty, because that's what I was saying. I was saying I wasn't even there. I wasn't even here. I've got like check the flights. I was at work. Like, yeah, and it was hard to basically plead guilty to something that you had such a good alibi for. But yeah, and then I had a co-accused. So the co-accused ended up going into coma. And I actually seen him yesterday for the first time since all this happened. And he came around and having a chat with him, and he said, "Did they change the charges on you?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "I didn't open any of the paperwork." I said, "I wouldn't open it because it was misaddressed." And he goes, "Yeah, well, they dropped all those charges on me." And I was like, oh, "Okay, but they didn't drop them on me." Then after I pleaded guilty, all his charges got dropped, and he was my co-accused. So he ended up doing a little bit of jail, ended up getting an infection, going in a coma, nearly died 4 times. I had to plead guilty because of the situation I was in, and then his charges get dropped. So they must have got enough to cover their costs or whatever, and are happy. I'm not sure how it works, but they let him off. Which is interesting. So yeah.
There you go. Alan, you got your hand up again.
Yeah, mate. So, Callum, does that mean that your 9 months is there still a trial date? And then the 5 years you said, does that come off your 5 years if when you go to trial, or is it just all over now? Are you?
Oh, sorry, Mum's just come in trying to tell me off. So basically it was 9 months concurrent so basically I'd done 9 months. They made the charges 9 months jail concurrent 4 times and 6 months jail concurrent 4 times. So when I got out, it was all over, but they did give me a fine. I keep returning the mail, so eventually I'll have to deal with that. I'm trying not to operate my person in commerce. I'm trying to avoid it altogether, but I think it's going to get to a point where I'll have to operate my person in commerce just to nullify it and deal with it, which I believe is okay. But yeah, I'm trying to go for as long as I can without having to operate my person in commerce. I just want to avoid their stuff altogether. So I keep returning their envelopes. There was $1,400 in spends that had accrued that were there. So yeah, I was getting $3 a day or $4 a day or something that accrued up to $1,400 because I wouldn't do spends. I wouldn't take any of their benefits. In the end, I realised that because I was sending a lot of letters off to all the departments and stuff like that. I was using the yellow envelopes they have there, but then I realised that they're corporate envelopes. I just consider a corporation by using their envelopes because you're actually using their postage paid system. So then I got to a point where to send a letter in there, you can post a letter, they'll post it for you. And I realised, hang on a minute, that's a benefit. Just the postage, the stamp is a benefit. So I stopped doing the letters as well. But yeah, before I stopped, I'd written to probably 20 different departments. I went through the whole list and wrote to all of them. Put together some pretty good paperwork, but yeah, didn't get a reply. I got one reply actually, and they said they'd go off Australian law, which was interesting. And it was a deputy commissioner, a fill-in deputy commissioner. Yeah, so it was almost like they just go, "Oh yeah, here you reply." And it was like that as well with the prosecution. They got a HR lady to do the letter for the prosecution, which was interesting. I found that very interesting. Yeah, there was that much paperwork, and then I believe Ray and Anita and Albert, they were all doing paperwork as well. The amount of paperwork they would have got about this situation would have been probably a foot high, I'd say.
Well, you certainly took it to the nth degree, mate, I tell you.
Yeah, didn't want to quit. Especially, I'd invoiced them as well before I went in there as well, and I got that sent off 2 days before they arrested me. So yeah, I was sort of thinking, oh, if I see this out, I've got good grounds to make it stick. But yeah, I don't know. I believe there's a. I'm probably not. I probably wasn't up to scratch enough to pull it all off. But a big learning curve. I've learned a lot in that time.
I would say so. That would be an understatement, I reckon. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Ah, amazing stuff. What a story, eh? Like parts of that are, well, unbelievable. But we know you, Kallen, and we know that you're telling the truth. Anita, you've got something to say there? You're muted,
Just
mate.
wanted,
Oh, no, you're...
yeah, I just wanted to let Callan know, he knows how many letters we've sent and how we got together at 2 o'clock in the morning on webinars and stuff like that. But I don't think the system is set up, no matter how hard you try to get out or to communicate with anyone, it's not set up for you to win. They want to win and have the upper hand on you. Also, we went to go and see his MP in Pinjarra. I won't call him his name on here now, but he did squat. He did zero. We got a 3-liner reply from him, and I said to him, well, you've given me an extract from the Tony Bootie's letter. Can I have the full letter so I can put it in context? Because if you just give me a paragraph, I don't know what was said before. I don't know what was said afterwards. I need the full letter, and I'm still waiting. No reply. They just, it's not set up for us to win. They want to win. And you need to kneel down and admit that you are their fiction, and then then they will let you out at their mercy. Is my observation. I yield.
Probably a fair enough observation, I think.
I-
Sarah, yeah.
I'm aware of not Kallen's situation, but there's a situation which some people on the call will be aware of in Darwin. We know someone up there, Wayne and I, who his wife was disclosing things that were extremely unpleasant for the government up there to hear, and she has suffered gravely at the hands of prison wardens and police. To the point where they had to go out of state to get a lawyer and who would represent her. And that lawyer had an extremely good track record, like really good track record. And that lawyer said her comment back to the people that we know was that, oh my God, I cannot believe every time I bring up this thing, they've tried to disbar her from the Australian bar. Luckily, she's got International Bar Association recognition, but she said, I cannot fathom. This is insane. She said every single person I've gone to about this has gone, nah, don't want to hear it, don't want to touch it. They just don't want to hear, and they've blocked her from doing anything. And so even you got to feel for some of the lawyers who are trying to do the right thing out there, because it must be so infuriating for them, because they're just getting told no, and to realize that something that you've put your whole life and your faith and your trust in, because you became a lawyer. And I presume that everyone's coming from a place of good. You became a lawyer because you want to help people and you wanted to do the right thing and help wrongly accused people and put bad people in jail where they belong. And to get to the point then where you go, okay, the people that I'm working with in the office next to me are actually criminals. That must be a really scary place for people to be, because they've got to do this stuff, which inherently is, and I know, Kallen, like you said, you didn't want to wear your name badge without the VC on it. And when I worked at Victoria Police, I mean, everyone knows Victoria Police is an upside down pentagram, and it was on the name badge. and I wore my name badge upside down. And I used to get called the little witch because I used to wear my name badge upside down. And I had a guy ask me one day, why do that? And I said, I'm not wearing that sign in here. I said it's against everything that I believe in. Like, the pentagram is the ether and the five elements. That's fine. Upside down, I said, do you have any idea what that is? And this was way before TASA. We're talking 15 years ago. And he's just like, no. And I said, go and research it. It's evil. I said, the sign that you guys carry around is evil. And you wear it every day proudly. And I said, you've got to be careful of this. Anyway, I yield.
Sue, I see you've got your hand up, but Ray's been holding his little pinky up there for a couple of minutes before you did. So, Ray, you go first.
Sue, do you want to go first? I'll be a gentleman and let you go first.
You are a gentleman, Ray. Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne.
I think it's just the state of where we're at spiritually in the whole world, where so many people like Kallen that have been brave enough to say no, enough is enough. This is not right. I'm going to, follow my moral high ground. And granted, you've already said, Kallen, you probably did some things that were wrong, but there's supposed to be mercy in all systems when you repent and, you reach a point where you're not going to do that again. But it is people with your sort of bravery that will also wake the lawyers up. Like when the lawyers take on a case where they can see that clearly this is not protocol, this is not how it's supposed to go. And so both within the system and without the system, because there are people like you standing up, it's exposing it for the whole world to see. And I think that's happening more, and it's picking up speed more and more and more to the point where we all realize this system does not serve us. It's not there to help us stay safe. It's not there to administer any sort of justice. It has become a beast itself, and it is the harm. It's creating more harm than pretty much anything that we would want to hold people to account for. So I think it's a really tough road you've done, but it's brilliant in that so many people have that much courage that they're prepared to do that. And for the rest of us to be able to see this is not right. This is not right. We have to do an about face, put our moral values back on the table, and statutes and acts be damned. Too many rules, but not enough morality. Yeah, anyway, and I thank you very much. I think that you've been of service to us all. Thanks, Kallen. I yield.
Very well spoken, Sue, and I totally agree with you. Totally agree.
Yeah, I was hoping to find a way to have a win, just so it was easier for others as well. It didn't quite pan out like that. Had to sort of lick my wounds a bit, but yeah, it wasn't from lack of trying anyway. That's for sure.
Yeah. But good on you, mate. Thank you for what you've done. And yeah, I don't reckon I would have lasted that long. Yeah. Ray, how about we
I
go
was just
to
going to
you?
say, one good thing that is happening these days is that people are waking up. They're no longer believing the lie that we've been indoctrinated with, that the system's there to protect, the good and punish wrongdoing, and this is all appearance. The reality is it's money making. The symbols are satanic. It's there for a purpose. Those who know me well. To me, that's Gog and Magog system, as shown in religious prophecy. That at least now, people that I think of those who've gone decades before us that would be crying out saying, "Don't believe the system. This is what it's capable of." At least nowadays, even for them, their struggles weren't in vain, because it's people like us now that are starting to see it more and more and more, and are less trusting and are more believing in believing in people who are getting screwed rather than judging them like the system I yield.
Thank you, Ray. I think it's possibly time to veer away from this conversation because I think we might go to the word of the day and then we'll unleash Sarah with the anecdotes. We'll see where we go from there. So the word of the day is statutory. Who would like to explain their version of statutory? Ray, you've got your hand up.
That will continue, perfect segue. This will continue from what I was saying before. All my research when I've been contacting lawyers and making phone calls and dealing with everyone, they make you believe three things: that the law is from the Constitution, common law, statutory law. However, statutory law is a law passed by Parliament, and that can override the common law when they say so. So they add in all this. It's just basically to protect the government, which is a corporation, the court, everything is in their back pockets. They're all in it together. It's a money-making scheme. It's a legal system, not a justice system. That's my take on it. I yield.
Very good. Sue?
I've got a great glossary that has got some definitions for statutory. I shall
Go
read them
for
out.
it.
Okay. Statutory law exists for the creations of statute and not otherwise. That's why it's called statutory law. It applies to persons, not people, humans, not men, and it comes from the same Latin root word as state and status. So 80 million statutes and 200 ones created every month. They only exist in the sea jurisdiction, do not apply to living people on the land and soil. To do so is a crime under the colour of law. They are not and can never be laws. They can only be codes, certificates, licenses, liberties, limitations, policies, regulations, registrations, and the like, dealing only in the corporate world of the sea jurisdiction. I thought that was quite a good little summary.
I think that's quite good. And Alan's about to give us another round. Go for it, mate.
No, he's not. He just got a great question for Sue saying, where did you get that? That was brilliant. What did that come from?
On the Anna Von Wright's website, she's got a thing in there called the glossary, which you can download, and it's like a dictionary of all the terms that apply to the law when you have knowledge of land and soil jurisdiction. So I'll post it up in one of our private chats if you like, and you can have a look at it.
That'd be great. Thanks, Sue.
And the only other thing I'd add in there, Sue, is that for anyone who has not tuned into this before, and if you're finding it interesting, or if you have tuned in before and you find it interesting, or if you've tuned in and you think someone else should hear it, we're supposed to say hit the like and subscribe and share buttons.
Well, I'm not the only one that can say that. Good on you.
But for anyone who's not aware, human, as in HUMAN, they've conveniently left the E out of there. So it should be HUE, as in colour of. Now, so if we say colour of law, it means it looks like law, but it isn't law. Okay? Human looks like man, but isn't man. We are living men and women. We are not human beings. So when Sue was talking about that and it said, statutes apply to humans, they don't apply to living men and women. So, that's just a little teaser for if you're not reconveyed and you want to find out more about it, go do some research. So, I yield.
Very well said, Sarah. So I had here statutory. Oh, I've got a whole heap of stuff. I'm not going to read it all. It says existing by virtue of a statute created, governed, or authorised by legislation enacted by a legislative body. So that's pretty created, defined, regulated, or governed by a statute. If something is statutory, it exists because a legislator has enacted a law creating it. So it all comes from Parliament. It all, or a government. It all relates to. Well, none of it relates to us. We don't recognise statutes. Sometimes they wave them around in front of us.
Actually, I'd like to mention that because, like in countries where they like the original British with their Commonwealth Constitution under the Magna Carta, the rule they had was we bring in statutes. In other words, they're man-made laws, but they were recognised as man-made laws. They're not God's laws. But the balancing point was that it was always trial by jury of your peers. So that should you go to trial with a statute that is not fit for purpose, the statute can be overturned and thrown out as bad law. And that's how you stop the statutes becoming the beast they've become, because the people always had the power to get rid of the statutes. Whereas in the system we've got, they just are. We feel like we don't know how to get rid of them. So that's why you have a trial by a jury, because that's your check and balance on the legislature getting it wrong. Just thought I'd add that. So I yield.
Yeah, well added. Kallen, you get your hand up, mate.
Yeah, for me, statutes is a statue. You think of a fake man, it's a statue. That's what statutes apply to. Acts are for actors because they're all acting, and codes are for someone that wants to keep something secret. So, yeah, those three things I try to avoid them like a plague, because they're basically fictional. Yeah, fictional or secretive. Yeah, anything that's secretive, you don't really want to get involved in, I don't think.
Thanks, Kallen. Yeah, it's the system. It's hard to live outside the system when you're surrounded by the system. Okay, well done. Ray, have you got your hand up again?
Yeah, very quickly, I was going to say, until we have an assembly running, they're going to ignore us and force us under statute law saying, yes, it does apply to you, and not recognize anything and they'll administer us because they feel we can't administer ourselves until we have an assembly forming. That, I figure, is our best chance at holding GovCo accountable. And number two, I don't know if it's the Pepper Files where I should mention this, but I found out recently Magna Carta could be another one of their tricks. And I've been given a tip-off to research the Charter of the Forest, which was, I think, contemporary with the Magna Carta. So that's my homework. I yield.
All right, well, I'm sure you'll let us know how that works out. Yeah. All right, thanks for all of that. Well, Sarah, we'll cut you loose on the anodox.
Okay, well, it's been a big week. Fortunately,
how big a week was it for Anna?
Oh, well, yeah.
Not to mention you.
Yes, there's been stuff going on all over the place, but they did say astrologically it's going to just get faster. I think, what did they say? It's going to double or triple in the speed, from here till the end of August. So everyone, we're just already all running double time. It's going to get worse. So, or faster, whichever way you want to put that. However, anodox. So fortunately, there was a lady who summarized a whole stack of them. Far out, there's a lot. Okay, so the first one after the 12th of July was an international public notice entitled Questions About Jurisdiction Answered.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. There's nasty feedback. I think it might be Kallen's mic, might be hot.
Sorry?
Are we good? Okay, we're good. Okay. All right, so Anna talks again about the difference between land and sea jurisdiction. Man on the land owns himself, his thoughts, his ability to work, and his belongings. That's his estate. He also owns a share of the public assets, which would be natural resources and the infrastructure that has been established by government. The credit that stems from these private and public assets is held by the fiduciary of the land, remembering that everything that we do as men and women, that's our estate. Anything that is, our share of the country or the land that we live on, is, we share in the assets of that. And we have a fiduciary on the land, who is Anna. And she's basically saying anyone who's claiming rights to this credit, particularly those from the Bar Association, are wrong. And she's basically warning them off and saying, she's had enough of their malarkey. Now, the next thing is, let me find it. I have somewhere here. Someone's done a beautiful summary of all of Anna's documents. Here we go. The next 6 documents are very long, so someone has actually summarized them, and I'll just run through. It's probably quicker just to do this. Hunter Aki has been removed as director of the Global Family Bank, which was chartered by the unincorporated Federation of States doing business as the United States of America. So, Anna states that all of the accounts and information of the account holders has remained secured. Judge Adrian Fonzie and Joey Grayling are reported to be in Panama, which has no extradition treaty with the United States. Fonzie was reportedly granted M1 trustee status in 2019 to assist with recoupment of funds owed to the Davila Family Trust, but was not given assignment rights. So he would help find all of the money that had been, put out into slush funds all around the various govcos around the world, but he was not given assignment rights. So he couldn't hand it to anyone. He was meant to find it and then report back. Tens of thousands of dollars were reportedly given to Fonzie for travel to France on unstated business. The source and purpose of these funds are described as unclear. Anna states she was told by a foreign government witness that Hunter was being coerced and blackmailed by British Crown agents. Until further notice, Hunter has no authorization or access to the Global Family Bank, the Global Family Commercial Bank, the Global Family Bank of Commerce, or the Global Prosperity System. Anna alleges Hunter created British Crown Corporation franchises under similar names, which she says triggered a British investigation into misuse of funds in one such account. Now, this is only 6 documents that are being summarized here. There's probably another dozen at least after this. So we'll go more into this, but I'm bringing everyone up to date so far. Anna has stated that MI5 is actively targeting her, describing this as consistent with historical treatment of Federation officers. I would remind everyone that and this is not the summarization, this is me, after the Civil War, which was actually a mercenary conflict in America, this is why the government over there got usurped, was because all of the Federation officers at the time got hunted down and killed. So basically that's what goes on. She explains what she calls the similar names deceit. A person's given name is used to create both an infant decedent estate and a separate similarly named corporate franchise, with the word incorporated deliberately omitted to cause confusion between the living person and the franchise. Anna states that no signature is valid on her behalf unless it is her own wet ink signature sealed with her red ink thumbprint and video confirmation. So she's saying unless someone actually sees her on video and says, yes, I have, I've autographed that, it's not valid. She calls for the British Crown Corporation and the Roman Municipal Corporation to be placed under new management. I don't know how you do that. Do you sack the Pope? I'm not sure. Anyway, Global Family Bank. Anna states a British Crown lookalike operation of the Global Family Bank is underway and instructs members to pull all funding pending new bank treaties and paperwork. She states this operation has no legitimate territorial claim in Africa or elsewhere. A separate notice describes an arrangement with Go New Earth, so that's Fonzie and GNE, that if allowed to stand would have placed the American Chartered Bank's African operations under British Crown Corporation control. Anna states this arrangement and a signature attributed to her on Fonzie's announcement of it are void for fraud and lack of authority. The public charter for anything called Global Family Bank, including its ability to issue American Federation dollars, has reportedly been withdrawn pending clarification. She uses an extended manure analogy, sorry. Money applied in the right amount at the right time is beneficial. Too much creates a wasteland rather than a garden. This is where we're talking about the money and the trusts and how it's going to be released, etc., etc. She criticises plans to run two parallel banking monopolies. Apparently, there are plans by GovCo to run BRICS for assets. That's BRICS. That's the, Brazil, Russia, India, China, Saudi Arabia thing. Or QFS, which is the quantum financial system, for credit, arguing both would keep individuals dependent as franchise account holders rather than owners of an inheritance, which it would. They're introducing digital ID all over the place. She states claims are being made on the Alpha and Omega Trust, which she says is earmarked to fund global cradle-to-grave healthcare, and warns that mismanagement threatens this purpose. She raises concerns about debanking threats and coercive control being used to silence questions or dissent within alternative payment systems. And she reiterates that the original purpose of the American Chartered Bank System was a bridge stipend during transition, framed as an inheritance tied to declaring one's birthright, not a welfare entitlement controlled by a third party. Now that, I think that's a bit important. We need to do that, because that's how they're going to try and end. If they try to put out, what is it when they want everyone to have the same amount of money and they just get it? Someone else can jump in.
Universal basic income.
That's the thing. Universal basic income will be a welfare entitlement. So anyone that's trying to talk about that, that's what they're really saying. It's going to be controlled by them, and if they don't like what you're saying, they will take it away. So this AFD is not that. She clarifies.
Sorry, Sarah, the other one that you're talking about, you will have to sign for it, and when you sign, you will be recontracting into
Correct.
that system.
So she clarifies that the global and so this is where we come back into the capital T and lower t the, or no the at all. So it's this bait and switch thing. She clarifies that the Global Family Bank, which the American public charter entity, which is the one that she drew the charters up for, is distinct from any global FG enterprises or mirrored operation using a similar name. This is where we have Australia and Australia Inc. and Australia Incorporated and the Commonwealth of Australia and the Australian Commonwealth. So it's all, bait and switch with different names. She states the public charter and any ability to issue AFD for any global family bank has been withdrawn while the situation is investigated. She notes this is unfolding in South Africa, which she links historically to the British South Africa Company. We'll touch on that a little bit later. Themes running through all 6 notices. A repeated statement that no signature is valid, I should say autograph is valid unless it is Anna's own wet ink, thumb-printed, video-confirmed autograph. A repeated warning about mirroring the alleged creation of similarly named corporate franchises to redirect funds or authority, and a consistent instruction to pull funding from anything operating outside the original American public charter pending clarification. So, after that, she writes, or during those 6 documents, but she also sends an open letter to the Pope, and she tells the Pope what is wrong in the world. So goes through all of the crimes and how that's affecting everyone and how that's screwing up the people that the Pope is supposed to be looking after. She also says, this is how you can fix it. I can help materially and actually. I can help in the secular world. You can do what you need to in your world, but you need to tell your other people over there that I need to be able to access this funding to help you and to help everyone. Then we talk about the South Africa situation. So I know not many people will know this, but quite a few of you will. There's been a bit of an argy-bargy situation going on in South Africa. So just to summarize, like many other countries around the world, the Brits installed a corporation government to rule over South Africa. And this was the very first country that they really tried to do it. And it was with Cecil Rhodes. Okay, so if anyone's got their history hat on, they'll know that name. And the South Africans were never allowed to form their own government. And this has caused huge amounts of issues in South Africa. We know that apartheid and horrific things have been going on over there. So they were actually preparing to split off, like hive off. So they were going to have an East South Africa and a West South Africa. Anyway, then the assemblies happened along. And so South Africa got busy building their assembly. Then along came the GNE, all caps. This is, remember, the municipal version of, the Go New Earth mob, setting up another assembly and helping people to set up accounts, but they were defrauding the actual account owners by retaining the account details themselves. So they'd say to someone, oh, yes, what's your account number and what password do you want, da da da, and they would keep all of those details. So they were just shysters. Then they blamed the original assembly for doing what they were doing. This classic. Oh, that's what I said. Then GNE tried to load the blame onto Tony Carroll of Tony Talks, who's in Ireland. He's the Irish coordinator, and accused him of all sorts of dodgy things, none of which he had done. And then this is where things really started to get a bit messy. Hunter knew for a fact that Tony had done nothing wrong because Anna asked him to go into the back door of the system. And he said, no, Tony's not been in here at all. He's done nothing wrong. But he didn't say anything publicly to defend Tony. He sided with the British Crown Corporation, who were saying, oh, Tony's done it all and Tony's bad and Tony's this. He teamed up with them. So, and that is what led him to being removed as director of the Global Family Bank. And the charter that Anna had drawn up, she ripped it up. She tore it up. Despite this, he is still representing something called Global Family Bank without the, and is trying to get funds out of the Alpha and Omega Trust, which is one of the subsidiary trusts of the Davila Family Trust, via the World Bank. Now, the World Bank has been told by Anna, as the fiduciary of the Davila Family Trust, that she's not authorised any money to come out of it, even to subsidiary trusts. So if the World Bank issues that money, they are actually acting against the fiduciary's say-so. And she's not holding money because she doesn't want to aid and assist people in need, but the trust is specifically by the people who set up the Davila Trust for national health care. So that's what it's there. It's for hospitals and healthcare and clinics and doctors and things like that. And if anyone did give money out from the Alpha and Omega Trust through this other GNE, it would be coming for British Crown Corporation anyway. Okay, money for individuals is coming. They're setting up a new bank as we speak, but the people in South Africa need to join the original South African Assembly, not the GNE dodgy version. Then a cease and desist order has been taken out against Hunter and Adrian. They did manage to get some money out of the World Bank, and they've been paying off debts that were owed by the British Crown Corporation to various entities in South Africa. What a surprise. She reiterates the Alpha Omega Trust is for worldwide healthcare, not for payments to criminals by criminals. Then we talk about public versus private announcement. And again, we come back to, and we've already touched on a little bit, we need to be very aware of language. When people talks about, there's an issue of national security, which nation are they talking about? Are they talking about the nation of Washington, D.C., which is its own little separate private nation, the same as the Vatican and the City of London? Or are they talking about the nation of America? So when they say national security, whose security are they actually really talking about? The British Crown Corporation and its various agents, MI5, MI6, the ones in Israel, the ones in Rome, everywhere else, are all being issued with kill orders against Anna and other government staffers. Trump has an obligation to protect Anna, as he is the naval commander-in-chief of America, or the United States, and he is literally under contract to protect Americans, which Anna is. Is he going to do his job? I would say he's not going to be too anxious to do it because he's already killing off his own subjects anyway. Then we've got another one, the public wrath of God. And this is an international public notice, and basically Anna's saying that the true God, source, whatever you wish to call it, is really, really, really angry at what has been done to us, his children, or aspects of source, whatever. She's calling on those who are doing the wrong thing to repent and change their ways as of like now. Then there's an international public notice, which is her public testimony, which goes for an hour. We've attached a video, or we will attach a video in the description box. So yes, she's actually written it all out, and you can read it or you can listen to it. And then a little bit later, she puts in a descriptor of how to bring your testimony. So this public testimony is sent to the International Criminal Court. Okay, and she basically outlines the whole thing, the fraud, the birth certificate scam, all of the stuff that we all know about and what we've been talking about today. And there's people, as Kallen has said, there's people who've been locked in there, they've done absolutely nothing wrong, they've been really badly hurt by the system, like the people we know in Darwin. We know that other people around the place have been really damaged by the system. And what Anna is saying is you can make a very short, it doesn't have to be long. You don't have to reiterate any of the stuff that she's talked about, but you can say, my name is Mary Jane, and I was dragged out of my car for no reason. I was beaten severely by the police. I'm now blind in one eye. I got sent into jail and I was released a month later. There was no charges laid against me. So you can say that and you can send that to the ICC. She does advise against going public like she has because it will put a target on your back. But if you have suffered unduly in a way that has not been addressed by her testimony, feel free to send something in, but just make it short and sweet. Anyway, so she sent that through. Then we talk about private versus public banks. Money was paid into a Citibank account by people paying money into the Global Family Bank vault, which I don't think many people here on Terra Australis did, but a couple did. And it was matched dollar for dollar by AFD going into people's vault account. The vault account values are still there, but the Citibank account of the actual fiat money has been emptied. The question is, who took it? IRS and the Department of Justice are blaming Hunter, but Hunter has gone MIA, so no one knows where he is. So he can't say, no, I didn't take it. It's quite possible that they took it, as in the DOJ and the IRS, and are blaming it on Hunter. Either way, Citibank is going to be subpoenaed and will be asked, but the next lot that they're going to blame it on is the American commercial banks, as in the ones that have been set up by Anna on the land, but they couldn't have done it because they literally don't have the ability to do it. They don't have the codes to do it. Then there's a very interesting thing. She talks about, and again, it's another video, and we'll attach that. The ICC, so the International Criminal Court, is finally addressing all of the crimes addressed in Anna's testimony after investigating and finding it's all true. So the US government is now coming out and they're trying to say, oh, the ICC is just, they're just all a bunch of frauds and they don't know what they're doing and they shouldn't be listened to, because finally the ICC is actually saying you're all criminals. And of course, the government is now trying to shut them down. Then we have a Granna Bytes note to people in Florida. And I would imagine that what's going on in Florida is that there's a bit of a split in the assembly, just reading between the lines. And she's pretty much saying, look, pull your heads in, work together and stop attacking us, the Federation, and purposefully confusing them with government contractors. So she's just saying, just go back to your assembly and start playing nicely. Then there's a video that she's put out. A new version of the Federal Reserve note is being produced, and Donald Trump has signed it. And Scott Bessant, who's the treasurer over there, is smiling. She's issued it. Why is this man smiling? And she says he's smiling because it's not his signature on this fraudulent currency. And they are still trying to pretend that the American Assembly is not in session when it most certainly is and has been now for 5 years. So she's saying, you're on notice. You know we're here. We know that you know we're here. Stop playing dumb. Then she addresses the president of the World Bank publicly and says Adrian Fonzie is not the M1 mandate for either De Villa Family Trust or the Alpha Omega Trust. That would be Anna. Then there's a Granna Bytes on passports. And apparently a court ruling in the US has just found that a passport is a benefit given to citizens or subjects of the British Crown, which we are not. Living men and women do not need them. That is just a Granna Bytes. It's not a public notice, but we do have to start working around passports, I think. That's something, that I know people have been talking about. Then there's another public notice, fraud alert. She did not appoint Adrian Fonzie. She did not issue any document purporting to be from the Department of the Treasury of GFG. And she's just saying all of this nonsense has to stop. Apart from anything else, the language is sloppy and she would not be a party to any of that. She's like, I would never write that. She said, you just language and your grammar is just sloppy. Then she talks about, it's a Granna Byte, and she's asking people to remember British history. There is a foundation in America that is asking people to pledge allegiance to who knows what. And she's saying if anyone or any organization asks you to pledge, find out just who they want you to pledge yourself to. Pledging is a feudal term for giving yourself and your assets to your king. And there are various patriotic groups out there now asking you to do the same thing. Then she talks, it's another Granna Bytes about misdirection, and she's saying that there is a lot of noise at the moment about Biden, about Hillary Clinton selling uranium, about fraud in the 2020 elections, blah, blah, blah. And she said this is all to cover up the fact that it is becoming more and more obvious that there are two groups who have both been lying, pillaging, and generally taking advantage of the American people and the rest of the world, and everyone's starting to figure that out. So the media is getting noisier and noisier with nothing, basically. Then we have another public notice, and she's clearing the air around the banking. And she's saying Hunter is in trouble with the authorities because he didn't pay taxes on all of the money he stole out of the Citibank account. You got to sometimes ask, how dumb are criminals that people were putting money into for the vault? People's vault assets are still safe. There are commercial banks being chartered. Everyone's accounts and details are safe and have been migrated. Hunter's troubles are entirely of his own making, and the American Assembly and governing body has nothing to do with him. Through this debacle, though, more people have woken up to the fact that fiat has no value because he won't probably get into trouble because, the courts over there have declared that he can't go to prison stealing money because it's not real money. The only American commercial banks can issue money, and they can't do that until the international bank is standing. So Anna is still in the process of getting that international bank is standing up. Then Adrian sends a letter to Anna saying, you're saying this, you're saying that. And she comes back to him saying, you clearly didn't know that the Alpha Omega Trust was purely for healthcare around the world. And the only honest way you could access the funds was to have them released by the fiduciary of the De Villa Family Trust. Whatever you're doing, you're playing right into the hands of the Brits, because he's trying to say, oh, no, I was innocent. And then she comes out and it's a public notice and they're talking about election fraud since 1787. And she said, Donald Trump has found proof of election fraud. But she said, really, was it a true election? Given that it's a private organisation into which everyone was dragged against their knowledge, it really was just a popularity vote. So there's not much the American Assembly can do because obviously this is a private corporation that you're saying, oh, well, there was voter fraud. Well, so it's like voter fraud in McDonald's. It's not the American Assembly's responsibility. The Americans are overdue for a presidential election. Traditionally, they were very quiet affairs, usually held in January, for an unpaid job that comes with enormous responsibility and very few benefits, one of which is knowing that you are standing for truth and you are standing in the way of tyranny. That's the anecdotes, people.
Well, we're not going to unpack them, that's for sure. That would take way too long. Alan's very relieved because he doesn't read the anecdotes and he's just saved himself 3 hours. And we understand you have trouble keeping up, mate. But you know, if there's anything that you don't understand, you can give Sarah a ring, okay?
Oh, good, mate. I actually did read a couple of them, so I was aware of a couple of them, about 2% of what Sarah said.
Look, I think, to be fair, a lot of stuff's been clouded by this whole Hunter situation, Hunter GFG situation. I think the main takeaways for anyone out there are, you know, the funding that we've been seeing in our accounts, that's still there. The money, the money that is behind that, or the assets behind that, they're still safe. You know, it's still there. Everything that Hunter and Adrian did was on paper. Fortunately, here on Terra Australis, we haven't had too much to do with Adrian Fonzie. I know he's been on a couple of the INAC calls and stuff, but South Africa was really where they kind of started their scam. And it's been caught. And I would imagine that there are going to be other things that come into play. And I heard something the other day from someone, and they said that Josh, who many of us are aware of, or who've been playing in the arena for a while, we're aware of Josh, who was very, very helpful, is very, very helpful to people with GFG. He's still firmly on Anna's side, absolutely firmly on Anna's side. So it's not like all of the knowledge has been lost. There's still a lot of expertise and knowledge there, and they've just transferred all of the stuff over. So I don't have any fear, and in fact, I think this might have been good because it's actually going to speed things up now that we don't have people actively blocking. So yeah, but that, and I think it is just, things feel like they're ramping up, not just in GFG or in TASA, but everywhere. I think things are just getting faster and faster. So yeah.
And so what there was an attempt at usurpation. They've been caught, and I believe it's a good thing. I think that if they've had a crack and they failed, that's, you know, that leaves us people generally in front.
It does.
In front. And it's got something out of the way that was almost bound to happen, I think. So
yeah, well, that's right. I mean, it's almost a given that any kind of new thing, particularly if it's aiming for good, is going to try and be usurped by the bad guys. So at least this way, it's dragged it out into the open. It's been tried. It's failed. So, good. Tick that off the list. Now move on. Kind of.
That's it. That's
don't think
the key words. That's
Yeah.
the key words, Sarah. Tick it off and move along. And
Pretty
Sarah, when you first came on here this afternoon, you had the flu. I think we've cured that. Oh yeah. Oh, sorry, I thought we had.
You jinxed me.
I wouldn't do that. So we've been on here a long time. I'm not too sure how long. This will be one of the longest videos we've done. Anybody got anything they'd like to add or throw out or throw at us or whatever before we close off? Not really. Kallen, I'd like to thank you for coming on, mate, and sharing your story. And what a story it is. And yeah, mate, you want to?
I just like to thank everyone that's put in extra effort to help me out when I was in that situation. That you all know who's are, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And yeah, just thanks for letting me share my story as well.
Pleasure,
You're very
mate.
welcome, Kallen, and thank you for, doing what you've done and taking up your part in the fight, I suppose.
All right, you might just mute, Kallen, would you, mate? Just mute yourself, mate. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so it's, look, we all have a part to play, and you and some of the others have chosen to take that particular path, whether you wanted to choose it or not, you've done it. And I think it's great because not great, but I think it's great that we can talk about it and put the message out there that, of what is happening and to bring some light into these situations, because otherwise we don't the average man in the street doesn't know
And
what's going on. So it's stories like yours and other people's that really wake people up. So thank you for your efforts and your courage, I suppose, to stand your ground in a situation like that. So
very much.
otherwise,
Thank you all for coming on and sharing your energy, sharing your thoughts, Sarah. I'd like to thank you especially for the extra work that you do. You organise the guests, you organise the program, you turn up every week.
That's all right.
Good.
We've got Teresa on next week from Queensland, and she is coming on to talk about education. And I know Trevor from Northern Australia hates education, the word. He much prefers to use the term knowledge sharing. So but we're going to talk about that because Teresa's got a very different approach to how she does things, and she's having a lot of fun in the system now. Well, outside the system now that she's sort of exited. But Teresa is great. She's got a lot of really good energy. So we'll have her on, and then I think we're going to line up Glenn, the copper man, for a fortnight from now, if we can get him on at that point. So yeah, there's some really good things coming up.
So we're going to go from somebody who's put their life on the line fighting for the cause to somebody who's educating the people. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Right.
All right. I'm going to hit the stop button. If you've got anything to say that you want recorded, you better say it now. Whoops, too late.